I watched my daughter-in-law drag a heavy brown suitcase across the wooden dock. She kept looking over her shoulder like she was hiding from someone. Then she lifted it with both hands and threw it into the dark water. The splash was so loud it scared the birds away. She ran back to her truck and drove off so fast the tires made that screaming sound. My chest felt tight. Something was very wrong. I dropped my teacup and ran as fast as my old legs could carry me. The suitcase was floating, but slowly going down into the cold lake water. That's when I heard it. Tiny cry. So soft I almost missed it. Coming from inside that suitcase. My whole body went cold. Please no, I kept saying as I rushed into the freezing water. My name is Margaret Rose, but everyone just calls me Maggie. I'm 63 years old and I live by myself now. My son Oliver died 7 months ago in what everyone said was just a terrible accident at work. Our cabin sits right next to Crystal Lake in the mountains of Colorado. This place used to be full of happy sounds. Oliver's laugh. His wife Jessica cooking in the kitchen. But now it's just me and the quiet. That Wednesday morning in October, I was sitting on my porch drinking hot tea with honey. The air smelled like pine trees and autumn leaves. Everything seemed peaceful, normal. Then I saw Jessica's red truck coming down the dirt road way too fast. Dust was flying everywhere behind her. She wasn't driving careful like she usually does. She was going so fast I thought she might crash. Jessica slammed on the brakes right at the edge of the lake. The truck was still running. She jumped out and her face looked scared. Really scared. Her blonde hair was messy and her hands were shaking. She opened the back of the truck and pulled out this big brown suitcase. The same one I gave her when she got married to Oliver. It was supposed to be for trips and adventures. Now she was dragging it like it weighed 100 pounds. Her eyes kept moving around, looking everywhere like she thought someone was watching. "Jessica!" I yelled from my porch. But she didn't look at me. Maybe she didn't hear me. Or maybe she just pretended not to. She walked closer to the water. Step looked hard. Like her feet didn't want to move. Like she was carrying something she wished she wasn't. She swung the suitcase back once. Then twice. Then on the third swing she let it go. It flew through the air and hit the water with a huge splash. The sound echoed across the whole lake. For a moment the suitcase just floated there on top of the water. Then it started sinking. Going down slowly. Jessica ran back to her truck faster than I've ever seen her run. The engine roared. The tires kicked up rocks and dirt. And then she was gone. Just like that. Leaving nothing behind except dust in the air and that suitcase disappearing into the dark water. I stood there frozen. My brain couldn't understand what I just saw. Jessica. The suitcase. The lake. Something was very, very wrong. My heart started beating really fast. My legs finally started working and I ran down the porch steps. I ran across my yard toward the muddy beach. The lake was only about as far away as a football field. But it felt like running forever. My knees hurt. My chest burned. But I kept going. I had to get to that suitcase. When I got to the edge of the water I was breathing so hard my whole body was shaking. The suitcase was still there. Still floating but sinking lower every second. The brown leather was getting darker as the water soaked into it. I didn't even think. I just walked right into that freezing cold lake. The water went up to my knees. Then my waist. It was so cold it hurt. My feet kept sinking into the soft mud at the bottom. I reached out with both arms and grabbed the handle. It was so heavy. Heavier than any suitcase should be. I pulled with all my strength. Water splashed in my face. My arms were shaking. The suitcase didn't want to move. But I kept pulling. I yanked harder. My feet slipped in the mud but I didn't let go. Finally the suitcase started moving toward me. Slowly. So slowly. And that's when I heard the sound again. Soft noise. Like a kitten crying. But not a kitten. Something else. Coming from inside the suitcase. My blood went ice cold. No, I whispered. Please don't be what I think it is. I dragged the suitcase through the water as fast as I could. My whole body was soaking wet and freezing. Finally I got it to the sandy part of the beach. I fell down on my knees next to it. My fingers searched for the zipper. It was stuck. The metal was wet and rusty. My hands kept slipping. Come on, I begged. Tears started running down my face. I tried the zipper again. And again. Moved a tiny bit. Then a little more. Finally it started to open. I pulled it all the way. I lifted the top of the suitcase. And the whole world stopped spinning. My heart stopped beating. I couldn't breathe. I put my hand over my mouth so I wouldn't scream. Inside the suitcase, wrapped in a wet pink blanket, was a baby. Tiny baby. So small. So still. Her little lips were blue. Her skin looked white like paper. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't moving. Oh God. Oh God, no. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely touch her. I lifted her out so carefully. She was cold. Too cold. She was lighter than my cat whiskers. Her tiny head fit right in my hand. Someone had tied her belly button cord with regular string. Just string. Like from the store. Not from a hospital. Like someone had her at home. In secret. No, 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 I kept saying over and over. I pressed my ear against her tiny chest. Nothing. I couldn't hear anything. Then I put my cheek by her nose. And I felt it. Just barely. The smallest puff of air. So tiny I thought maybe I imagined it. But it was there. She was breathing. Just barely. But breathing. I stood up so fast I almost fell over. I held the baby tight against my chest. My legs felt like they might break, but I didn't care. I ran toward my cabin faster than I've ever run in my whole life. Water was dripping from my clothes. My bare feet were bleeding from rocks on the path. But I didn't feel any pain. All I could think about was saving this tiny baby. I crashed through my front door yelling. I don't know what words came out. Maybe help or please or just sounds. I grabbed my phone from the kitchen with one hand while holding the baby with the other. My fingers kept missing the numbers. The phone almost fell twice. Finally I pressed 911. This is 911. What's your emergency? A calm lady's voice asked. A baby. I found a baby in the lake. She's not moving right. She's so cold. She's blue. Please help. I was crying and yelling at the same time. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and tell me where you are. I told her my address by Crystal Lake. My voice was shaking so much I could barely talk. Okay. I'm sending an ambulance right now. I need you to do exactly what I say. Put the baby on something flat and hard. I used my arm to sweep everything off my kitchen table. Dishes and papers crashed to the floor. Nothing mattered. I put the baby on the table. So small. So still. Is she breathing? Look at her chest. Is it moving? The lady asked. I looked as close as I could. Just barely. The tiniest movement. Yes, think so. Very small. Good. That's good. Now listen carefully. Get a clean towel and gently dry the baby. Then wrap her up tight to make her warm. I ran to the bathroom and grabbed every towel I had. My hands were clumsy and shaking. I dried her tiny body so carefully. Like she might break. She was so delicate. Like a baby bird. I wrapped her up in the towels as tight as I could. Then I picked her up and held her against my chest. I started rocking back and forth without even thinking about it. Something deep inside me just knew to do it. Hold on, little one, I whispered right next to her ear. Please hold on. Help is coming. You're not alone. I'm here. I won't leave you. I started singing. I don't even know what song. Maybe the same one I used to sing to Oliver when he was little. Or maybe just made up words. I just needed her to hear a voice. To know someone cared. To know someone wanted her to live. Time moved so slowly. Each second felt like an hour. I sat on the cold kitchen floor holding this tiny baby. Singing. Rocking. Praying to anyone who might listen. Then I heard them. Sirens. Getting louder and louder. Red and blue lights flashed through my windows. I jumped up and ran to the door. 2 ambulance people ran out. A man with a gray beard and a young lady with her hair in a ponytail. She took the baby from my arms so fast. but gentle too. She looked at the baby with serious eyes. She pulled out a tool to listen to the baby's heart. I could see her shoulders get tight. Extreme cold body. Water in lungs. Critical condition, she said to the man. We need to go now. They put the baby on a small bed with wheels. They put a little mask over her face to help her breathe. Their hands moved fast. Connecting wires. Beeping machines. Things I didn't understand. The man looked at me. Are you coming? It wasn't really a question. I climbed into the ambulance. I squeezed into the small seat on the side. I couldn't stop staring at the baby. So tiny, surrounded by all those big machines. The ambulance took off. The siren was so loud. The world outside the windows turned into a blur. How did you find her? The lady asked while she kept working. In a suitcase. In the lake. I saw someone throw it in. She looked at me quick. Then at her partner. Something changed in her eyes. Worry. Or maybe she didn't believe me. Did you see who threw it? I opened my mouth. Then closed it. Jessica. My daughter-in-law. Oliver's wife. The woman who cried so hard at his funeral like her world ended. The same woman who just tried to drown a baby in a lake. How could I say that out loud? How could it even be real? Yes, I finally said. My voice was so quiet. I saw who did it. We got to Denver Children's Hospital really fast. Maybe 15 minutes. The emergency room doors flew open. So many people in scrubs and white coats ran to meet us. They were all yelling. Numbers. Medical words. Orders. They took the baby through big double doors. I tried to follow but a nurse stopped me. Ma'am, you have to wait here. The doctors need space to work. She took me to a waiting room. The walls were cream-colored. The chairs were hard plastic. Smelled like cleaning spray. I sat down and my whole body started shaking. Maybe from the cold. Maybe from shock. Probably both. The nurse sat in the chair across from me. She was older. Maybe my age. Her name tag said Nurse Carol. She had kind wrinkles around her eyes. I need you to tell me everything that happened, she said in a soft voice. So I told her. Everything. From seeing Jessica's truck to pulling the suitcase out of the lake. Carol wrote stuff down on a tablet. She nodded and didn't interrupt me once. When I finished talking, she took a long, deep breath. The police are going to want to talk to you, she said. This is attempted murder. Maybe even worse than that. Attempted murder. Those words hung in the air like dark storm clouds. My daughter-in-law. Oliver's wife. A murderer. I couldn't make my brain understand it. Carol put her hand on top of mine. You did the right thing today. You saved a life. But I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like I just opened a door to something terrible. Something that would change everything forever. 2 hours went by so slowly. Finally a doctor came out to talk to me. He was young. Maybe 35. He had dark circles under his eyes like he was very tired. His hands smelled like soap. The baby is stable now, he said. She's in the baby intensive care unit. She got way too cold and she breathed in water. Her lungs are hurt. The next 2 days are the most important. Is she going to live? Yes. My voice cracked. I don't know, he said honestly. We're going to do everything we possibly can. The police came 30 minutes later. 2 officers. A woman who looked tough with her hair pulled back. And a younger man writing everything down. The woman said her name was Detective Sarah Martinez. She had dark eyes that looked like they could see through lies. They asked me the same questions over and over. Different ways. I told them about the truck. The exact time. Jessica's movements. The suitcase. Everything. Sarah watched me hard. Like she was studying me. Making me feel guilty even though I didn't do anything wrong. And you're absolutely sure it was your daughter-in-law? Yes. Completely sure. Why would she do something like this? I don't know. Where is she now? I don't know. When did you last talk to her before today? 3 weeks ago. On the day Oliver died 7 months ago. Sarah wrote something in her notebook. She looked at her partner. We'll need you to come to the police station tomorrow to make an official statement. And you cannot contact Jessica at all. Do you understand? He nodded. What would I even say to her? Why did you try to kill a baby? Why did you throw her in the lake like garbage? Why? The officers left. Carol came back with a blanket and hot chocolate. You should go home. Get rest. Change into dry clothes. But I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave that baby alone in the hospital. That baby I held against my chest. Who took her first real breaths in my arms. I stayed in the waiting room. Carol brought me dry clothes from the hospital storage. Nurse scrubs and a baggy shirt. I changed in the bathroom. When I looked in the mirror, I looked 10 years older. Like I aged that much in just one afternoon. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in that plastic chair watching the clock. Every hour I got up and asked about the baby. The nurses always said the same thing. Stable. Critical. Fighting. At 3 a.m, Reverend Paul from my church showed up. Someone must have called him. He sat down next to me. He didn't say anything for a long time. Just sat there. Sometimes that's what you need. Just someone being there. Proof you're not totally alone. God tests us in many ways, he finally said. This doesn't feel like a test, I said. It feels like a nightmare. He nodded. He didn't try to tell me I was wrong. And I liked that better than a sermon. When the sun started coming up, I knew nothing would ever be the same. Crossed a line. I saw something I can't unsee. Whatever happens next, I'll have to face it. Because that baby fighting for every breath in the next room has become my job to protect. I didn't choose this. But I can't walk away either. Not after pulling her from the water. Not after feeling her tiny heartbeat against mine. Morning came without me noticing. Sunlight came through the waiting room windows, making everything orange. I spent the whole night in that plastic chair. My back hurt. My eyes burned. But I couldn't leave. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the suitcase sinking. I saw that still little body. I saw the blue lips. Carol showed up at 7 with coffee and a breakfast sandwich wrapped in foil. You need to eat something, she said, putting them in my hands. I wasn't hungry, but I ate because she stood there waiting. The coffee burned my tongue. The sandwich tasted like nothing. But I chewed. I swallowed. I pretended to be normal. The baby is still stable, Carol said, sitting next to me. Her body temperature is going up. Her lungs are getting better. That's a good sign. Can I see her? She shook her head. Not yet. Only immediate family. And we don't even know who her family is. Family. That word hit me like a rock. This baby had a family. A mother. Jessica. But she tried to kill her. So who's the father? Where is he? Why hasn't anyone reported a missing baby? Questions filled my head with no answers. At 9 o'clock Sarah came back. She was alone this time. She sat across from me with a folder. Her face looked serious. Like she was about to say something bad. Maggie, I need to ask you more questions, she said, opening the folder. I already told you everything. I know. But something doesn't add up. What do you mean? Sarah took out a photo and put it on the table between us. It was Jessica's red truck. But it was at a grocery store parking lot. Not at the lake. This photo was taken by a security camera at a store 30 minutes from here. Yesterday at 5:20 in the afternoon. 5:20. 10 minutes after I supposedly saw her at the lake. That's impossible. I looked closer at the photo. It was her truck. Same license plate. Everything. But that can't be. There's a mistake, I said. I saw her. I was there. You were sure, she said. But my voice didn't sound sure anymore. Sarah leaned forward. Maggie, I need you to be honest. What's your relationship with Jessica like? Do you get along? And there it was. The real question. The one I knew was coming. Because we didn't get along. We never did. From the day Oliver brought her home, I knew something was off about her. She was too perfect. Too interested in Oliver's money. He worked as a computer programmer and made good money. $70,000 a year. We're not close, I admitted. Do you blame her for Oliver's death? What? My voice came out too loud, too defensive. It's a simple question. Do you blame Jessica for Oliver dying? The accident. That's what everyone called it. Oliver was working late at the factory. Machine malfunction. He got crushed. Died instantly. Jessica wasn't even there. But something always felt strange. Convenient. But I never had proof. Just a mom with a broken heart looking for someone to blame. I don't see what that has to do with the baby. It has everything to do with it, Sarah said, closing the folder. Because we can't find Jessica. She's disappeared. Her house is empty. Her phone is off. And you're the only person who says they saw her yesterday. Her words hit me like ice water. She was accusing me. Not directly. But the hint was there clear as day. She thought I made it all up. That I found the baby somewhere else and blamed Jessica because I hate her. I didn't lie, I said, my teeth clenched together. I saw what I saw. Then we need to find Jessica fast. Because if she's this baby's mother, the baby is in danger. And if she's not, then we have an even bigger mystery. Sarah stood up and gave me a card with her number. If you remember anything else, any detail, call me. She walked out, leaving me with more questions than answers. I sat there holding the card, wondering if I was going crazy. I saw Jessica. Oh, sure. But now doubt was creeping in like poison. What if I was wrong? What if it was someone else? What if my sadness and anger made me see what I wanted to see? Reverend Paul came back at noon. He had a rosary in his hands. Should we pray? He asked. I'm not super religious. Never was. But right then I needed something bigger than me. Something to tell me I wasn't alone. He nodded. We prayed together quietly. The familiar words made me feel calmer, even though I don't know how. When we finished, I felt a little less broken. The police think I'm lying, I told him. The truth always comes out, he said. Even if it takes time. But we didn't have time. That baby was fighting for her life. And somewhere Jessica was hiding. Or running. Or planning what to do next. At 3 p.m, a different doctor came to see me. An older woman with thick glasses and a serious face. We need your permission to run tests on the baby, she said. I'm not family. We know. But you're the only responsible adult here. Child Protective Services is coming, but we need to act now. The baby needs blood tests. We need to know if she has medical problems. If someone gave her drugs. If she has injuries we haven't found yet. I signed the papers. I didn't even read them all. I just wanted them to do whatever would save her. 2 hours later the social worker showed up. Her name was Bethany. She was young. Too young. Maybe 25. Short brown hair. A gray suit. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. Miss Rose, she said, sitting next to me. I need to ask about your situation. I understand you found the baby. The story again. The questions again. But Bethany was different. She didn't look at me with suspicion. She looked at me with pity. Which was somehow worse. Do you live alone? She asked. Yes. Do you have steady income? I have my late husband's pension and some savings. Any criminal record? No. Mental health issues. Depression. Anxiety. I hesitated. After Oliver died, I took medicine for sadness for 3 months. My doctor said it was normal. That grief sometimes needs chemical help. I stopped when I felt better. I had depression after my son died. But it passed. Bethany wrote something down. I couldn't see what. The baby will need a temporary home when she's released from the hospital. If she's released, Child Protective Services will look for certified foster families. Until then she stays in state custody. State custody. Those words broke something inside me. This baby I held against my chest, who breathed her first breath of hope in my arms, would be given to strangers, to a system, to people who would see her as just another file, just another number. What if I wanted to? The words came out before I could stop them. What if I wanted to take care of her? Bethany looked at me surprised, then doubtful. Miss Rose, you're 63 years old. You're not a certified foster parent. You have no legal connection to the baby. And you're involved in an active criminal investigation. I didn't do anything wrong. I saved her life. I know. But the system has rules. The best thing for the child comes first. And honestly, your age and your recent mental health are things we have to think about. I felt like she slapped me. Too old. Too unstable. Too broken. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was crazy to even think about it. But when I closed my eyes, all I saw was that tiny body. And I knew nobody else in the world would love her like I could. That night I went home for the first time in 36 hours. Carol convinced me. She said I needed to shower. Sleep in a real bed. That the baby would be fine. They call if anything changed. I drove home as the sun was going down. The lake sparkled on my right. I stopped in the exact spot where I saw Jessica. Where I pulled out the suitcase. I got out of the car and walked to the edge. The suitcase was gone. The police took it for evidence. But I could see exactly where it had been. I could see my own footprints in the dried mud. I stood there as it got dark, wondering if I'd ever know the truth. Wondering if Jessica was watching from somewhere. Wondering what really happened. Then my phone rang. It was the hospital. My heart stopped. "Miss Rose," Carol's voice said. "You need to come back. Now." I drove back to the hospital, ignoring every speed limit. My hands shook on the steering wheel. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it over the engine. Carol didn't give me details on the phone. Just said, "Come back now." Those 3 words filled my head with the worst thoughts. The baby died. That had to be it. Why else would they call so urgent? She fought for 2 days and finally her tiny body gave up. I wasn't fast enough. I parked badly, taking up 2 spots. I ran toward the emergency doors. Carol was waiting at the entrance. Her face looked serious. But there was something else. Something I couldn't figure out. "She's alive," she said right away, like she knew what I was thinking. "The baby is alive. But you need to come with me." She led me down hallways I didn't know. We took an elevator to the 3rd floor. Past the baby unit. Kept walking. Finally we got to a small conference room. Inside were Detective Sarah, Bethany the social worker, and a man I didn't know. He was older. Maybe 60. Dark suit. Glasses. Lawyer face. "Please sit," Sarah said, pointing to a chair. Sep. My legs felt like jelly. Everyone looked at me so intense it made me want to run. "We got the results of the baby's DNA test," Sarah said. Her words dropped like stones in quiet water. DNA. I didn't understand why they did that. What were they looking for? And I asked when the silence got too much. Sarah looked at the man in the suit. He nodded. He opened a folder and pulled out printed papers. He put them in front of me. "The baby is a girl. She was born about 3 days ago based on medical tests." He paused. "And Maggie, she is your granddaughter." The world stopped. The words made no sense. I heard them but my brain wouldn't process them. My granddaughter. Impossible. Oliver died 7 months ago. He didn't leave any children. No pregnancy. Nothing. "That's impossible," I whispered. "The results are conclusive," the man in the suit said. "I'm Dr. Robert Kim, a genetics specialist. We ran the tests twice to be sure. The baby shares about 25% of her DNA with you. She is definitely your biological granddaughter. Oliver's daughter. Oliver's daughter. My Oliver." I felt like someone punched me in the chest. Oliver had a daughter. A daughter he never knew about. A daughter someone tried to drown in a lake. But how? My voice sounded far away. "Oliver died 7 months ago. Jessica never said anything about being pregnant." "Exactly," Sarah said, leaning forward. "Jessica was pregnant when Oliver died. Based on our calculations, she got pregnant about a month before his death. Which means she knew." The room was spinning. Jessica knew she was pregnant when Oliver died. Why didn't she say anything? Why did she hide the pregnancy for 9 months? Why did she give birth in secret and then try to kill her own child? "I don't understand," I said. Tears started blurring my vision. Why would she do that? She's her mother. Oliver's daughter. That's what we need to find out, Sarah said. But there's more, Maggie. I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. I braced myself. I didn't know for what. But I knew what was coming would be worse. We've been looking into Oliver's death. And there are problems. Big problems. What kind of problems? Oliver's accident was investigated after it happened. The official report said machine malfunction. But we requested a new review. They found evidence someone messed with the machine on purpose. Someone sabotaged it. The word dropped like a bomb. Sabotage. Murder. My son didn't die in an accident. He was murdered. Jessica, I said. It wasn't a question. She's our main suspect, Sarah admitted. But we need proof. And we need to find her. She's completely disappeared. No phone. No bank activity. Like she vanished into thin air. I stood up from the chair. I needed to move. I needed air. I walked to the window. Outside the city glittered with millions of lights. Normal life. Normal people. While I was trapped in this nightmare. My son, I whispered against the glass. My baby boy. She killed him. Nobody answered. There was nothing to say. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Bethany. There's one more thing you need to know, she said softly. About the baby. About her future. I turned around. Her eyes were kind but sad. Since the baby is your biological granddaughter, you have legal rights. You can apply for custody. She held up her hand before I could speak. It will be a long process. Home visits, interviews, psychological tests. And meanwhile the baby stays in state care. No. The word came out as a shout. You're not taking her from me. She's all I have left of Oliver. She's my granddaughter. My blood. I understand, Bethany said. Believe me. But the system has rules. And after everything that happened, we have to make sure the baby is safe. She'll be safer with me than with any stranger. Maybe. But that decision isn't mine. It's up to a judge. And the child's safety. Dr. Kim spoke for the first time since his big announcement. There's another thing we must consider. The baby suffered severe trauma. Extreme cold. Near drowning. The next few weeks will be critical for her development. She'll need specialized care. Therapy. Constant medical watching. I'll do whatever it takes, I said. Whatever. Sarah stood up. Maggie, I need you to understand one thing. You're not a suspect. We believe your story. But you also can't just keep the baby because she's your granddaughter. There's a legal process. And meanwhile, our priority is finding Jessica. We need your help. How? Think. Did Jessica ever mention a special place? Any property? Any friend or relative she might be hiding with? Closed my eyes. I thought about all the talks I had with Jessica during the 3 years she was married to Oliver. They were few and shallow. She never talked about her family. Never mentioned her past. It was like she appeared from nowhere the day she met Oliver. She has an uncle, I suddenly said. Up north near the Wyoming border. Oliver mentioned it once. He said Jessica grew up with him in a place called Laramie. Sarah wrote it down fast. Name? I don't know. Oliver never said. It's a start, Sarah said. We'll investigate. Everyone left except Carol. She stayed with me in that cold, empty conference room. Do you want to see your granddaughter? She asked. I nodded, unable to speak. She led me through security doors to the baby unit. She made me wash my hands, put on a sterile gown. Then she took me to an incubator in the corner. And there she was. My granddaughter. Oliver's daughter. So small. So fragile. Connected to tubes and wires. But alive. Breathing. Fighting. She had Oliver's dark hair. Oliver's nose. Oliver's long fingers. Can I touch her? I whispered. Yes. Just be gentle. I reached my hand through the opening in the incubator. I touched her tiny hand. It was so soft. So warm. Her small fingers closed around my finger. Just a reflex. but it felt like a promise. "Hello, little one," I whispered. "I'm your grandma. And I promise I'm going to protect you. Nobody will ever hurt you again. I swear on your daddy's memory." Carol put her hand on my shoulder. "She needs a name," she said softly. "For the hospital records. Until we find the mother. Or until a judge decides." Oliver always wanted to name his first daughter Rose after my grandmother. He told me once during Thanksgiving dinner, "If I have a daughter, I'll call her Rose." "Rose," I said. "Her name is Rose." I stayed there all night, sitting next to the incubator, holding her hand, singing her the songs I used to sing to Oliver, promising her a future I didn't know if I could give, but promising anyway, because now I knew the truth. This baby wasn't a stranger I found by accident. She was my blood, my family, all that was left of my murdered son. And I wasn't going to let anyone take her away from me. Not the system. Not Jessica. Nobody. The next days were a nightmare of paperwork. I woke up every morning at 5, showered, dressed, drove to the hospital. I spent all day next to Rose's incubator. And in the afternoon the visits started. Lawyers, social workers, police, all with folders, all with questions, all deciding if I was good enough to raise my own granddaughter. Bethany showed up on the third day with a list of requirements. She read it in a voice with no emotion, like reading a recipe. "You'll need a criminal background check, complete psychological evaluation, a medical exam, proof of income, a home inspection, personal references from at least 3 people who aren't family. And you have to complete a 40-hour childcare course." 40 hours. Like I hadn't raised a child to adulthood. Like I didn't know how to change a diaper or make a bottle. But I didn't say anything. I just nodded and took the paper she gave me. "How long will all this take?" I asked. "If you're lucky, 6 weeks. If not, 3 months. 3 months. Rose would be in foster care for 3 months while I jumped through hoops to prove I deserved to raise her. And what about her meanwhile? When she's released from the hospital, she'll go to a certified temporary foster family. She'll get proper care. You can visit her twice a week. With supervision. Twice a week with supervision. Like I was dangerous. Like I wasn't the person who saved her from drowning. That night I called Reverend Paul. I needed references. I needed people to say I wasn't crazy. That I was capable. That I could do this. He came to my house the next day. He sat in my kitchen drinking the same tea I used to make for Oliver when he was little. "Of course I'll help you," he said. "You're one of the strongest women I know. This child is blessed to have you." But I didn't feel strong. I felt old. Tired. I was 63 years old. How was I going to chase a 2-year-old when I'm 65? How was I going to help with homework when I'm 70? Would I even be alive for her high school graduation? "I'm too old for this," I said out loud for the first time. Reverend Paul looked at me over his cup. "Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Age is just a number when there's love involved." I wanted to believe him. I really did. On the 4th day, Carol taught me how to care for Rose. How to hold her tiny head. How to change her miniature diapers. How to make the formula the exact right temperature. My hands shook at first. I'd forgotten how fragile newborns are. How dependent. How terrifyingly delicate. "You're doing great," Carol said every time I panicked. But it didn't feel great. Felt like walking on ice. One wrong move and everything would shatter. On the 5th day, Sarah came back with news. "We found Jessica's uncle," she said. "He lives in a small town 60 miles from the Wyoming border near Laramie. We went to talk to him. He says he hasn't seen Jessica in 2 years. Says they had a fight. Jessica owed him money. $3,000. Money. It always came back to money with Jessica. Oliver earned good money as a programmer. $70,000 a year. He had savings. He had a $200,000 life insurance policy. Jessica was the one who would get it. Did she get the insurance money? Yes. Sarah nodded. 4 months ago. $200,000 deposited in her account. 2 weeks later she moved it all to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. We're trying to trace it, but it's complicated. $200,000. The price of my son's life. And she hid it in some tax haven while planning to kill his baby. Why? I asked the question that haunted me every night. Why kill the baby? She could have given her up for adoption. She could have left her at a hospital. Why try to drown her? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. We have a theory, she finally said. We looked into Oliver's finances. We found something interesting. 2 weeks before he died, he changed his will. He left everything to his future children. Not to Jessica. To his children. The air left my lungs. Oliver knew. Somehow he knew Jessica was pregnant, and he changed his will to protect his daughter. She killed him for money, I whispered. We believe so, Sarah said. And then she realized the money would go to the baby if she was born alive. So she decided to get rid of her too. The pure evil of it left me speechless. She killed my son. She carried the pregnancy to term. She gave birth alone. And then she tried to drown her own baby. All for money. Do you have enough to arrest her? When we find her, yes. But she's still missing. She's smart. She knows we're looking. She probably left the country. Days turned into weeks. Rose got stronger. The doctors removed the tubes one by one. She started breathing on her own. Feeding on her own. Crying with strong, healthy lungs. It was a medical miracle. The doctors said no baby who went through what she did should be doing this well. But I knew it was more than medicine. It was willpower. It was Oliver's spirit living in that tiny body. Fighting. Surviving. Refusing to give up. I completed all the requirements. The background check came back clean. The medical exam showed I was healthy for my age. The psychological evaluation was the hardest. A young woman with glasses asked me questions for 3 hours. How did you cope with Oliver's death? How do you feel about Jessica? Are you trying to replace Oliver with this baby? That last question hurt. I'm not replacing anyone, I said. I'm saving my granddaughter. It's different. She wrote something down. I don't know if it was good or bad. The home inspection was embarrassing. 2 women checked every corner. They opened closets, checked the refrigerator, measured windows to see if they were safe. They counted smoke detectors. They asked about my fire escape plan. You'll need a certified crib, changing table, safety gates on the stairs, cabinet locks, outlet covers. I spent $800 I didn't have on baby stuff. My pension barely covered my basic bills. I had to use my savings. But I didn't care. Rose was worth it. The childcare course was the worst. 15 young mothers and me. They all looked at me like I was the confused grandma who walked into the wrong class. The teacher was 25. She explained things I already knew with painful slowness. Babies need to eat every 3 hours. Babies cry when they're hungry or wet. Never shake a baby. I nodded and took notes even though I wanted to scream that I raised a child to adulthood. That I knew exactly what I was doing. But I needed that certificate. So I swallowed my pride and pretended to learn. 6 weeks after finding Rose in the lake, Bethany showed up at the hospital with a small smile. You've completed all the requirements, she said. The judge will review your case next week. If everything goes well, you could have temporary custody in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. After 42 days of paperwork, hell, I could finally take my granddaughter home. But that same night, when everything seemed to be getting better, my phone rang. 'Twas Sarah. Her voice was tense. Maggie, I need you to come to the police station now. We found something. Something about Oliver you need to see. I got to the station with a knot in my stomach. Sarah was waiting at the entrance. Her face was more serious than usual. She led me down narrow hallways to an interview room. On the table was a cardboard box. Inside I recognized Oliver's things. His wallet, his watch, his broken phone. The things they gave me back after the accident. What is this? Yes. We finally managed to unlock his phone, Sarah said. Our tech guy worked on it for weeks. And we found something. She took out a manila envelope. She opened it and spread several printed papers on the table. Screenshots of text messages between Oliver and Jessica, dated 2 weeks before his death. I read the first one. It was from Oliver to Jessica. "We need to talk. I know about the baby." Jessica's response: "I don't know what you're talking about." Oliver again: "I found the pregnancy test in the bathroom trash. Why didn't you tell me?" 3-hour gap. And Jessica: "I wasn't ready to tell you. I was scared." "Scared of what?" "I'm your husband. We're going to be parents. This is wonderful." Another gap. And "I don't want to keep it. I want to travel. Live my life. Not be stuck with a baby. It's our daughter. She's not a mistake. Don't say that, please. We can make this work. I'll help you. My mom will help us. I don't want help. I want my old life back." The messages got more intense. Oliver begging, Jessica resisting, until I got to the last exchange. The day before the accident. "Jessica, I talked to a lawyer. If you don't want to have the baby, I'm divorcing you. And if you have her and don't want to raise her, I'll fight for full custody. I won't let you hurt my daughter. Oliver, you're going to regret this." "Jessica, is that a threat?" No response. The next day Oliver was dead. I dropped the papers. Tears poured down my face. "She killed him," I said. "She killed him because he was going to protect the baby." "That's what we believe," Sarah said. "And there's more." We checked Jessica's phone records from that week. She made 3 calls to an independent mechanic named Carl Thompson. We brought him in for questioning. What did he say? Nothing at first. But when we showed him the bank transfers Jessica made to him, $2,000 the day before the accident, he started talking. He admitted she paid him to sabotage the factory machine Oliver operated. Felt sick. Had to sit down. Jessica planned everything. She hired someone to kill my son and make it look like an accident. Why would Carl do something like that? Gambling debts. He owed $15,000 to dangerous people. Jessica offered him $2,000 right away and $3,000 more later. He took it. He's arrested now as an accomplice to murder. And Jessica. We have a warrant for her arrest. First-degree murder for Oliver. Attempted murder for Rose. Attempted murder for you when she shot at you. Wait, what? The lake. When you tried to stop her. Security cameras we found later showed her pulling a gun. I had no memory of that. My mind must have blocked it out. She's facing life in prison without parole. But we still haven't found her. She's like smoke. I sat in that cold room processing everything. My son died trying to protect his baby. And that baby was now in the hospital fighting for life because her own mother tried to kill her. The cruelty was unbearable. What happens now? Yes. We keep looking. We have her photo at every airport, every border. Alerts at hospitals in case she tries to change her appearance. Someone will recognize her eventually. Nobody disappears forever. But I wasn't so sure. Jessica had proven to be smarter and colder than I ever imagined. If she planned Oliver's murder in such detail, she probably had an equally good escape plan. I went back to the hospital that night. I sat by Rose's incubator. I watched her sleep. So innocent. So unaware of the horror around her. Her very existence cost her father his life. Her mother tried to kill her. And I was all that stood between her and a system that would see her as just another case. Your daddy loved you, I whispered to her. He died protecting you. I'm going to finish what he started. I promise. Carol showed up with coffee. She sat next to me quietly for a while. I heard about the messages, she finally said. I'm so sorry. I didn't know Oliver could be so strong, I said. He was always gentle. But in those messages he was a warrior. Ready to fight for his daughter. Love does that, she said. It makes you stronger than you thought possible. She was right. I was feeling it myself. I never thought of myself as particularly strong. But now I was fighting the system. Fighting time. Fighting a fugitive killer. All for this baby. The next days were about preparation. I turned Oliver's old room into a nursery for Rose. I took down the computer posters, the gaming trophies, college photos. I painted the walls soft yellow. I assembled the new crib, the changing table, the musical mobile that played lullabies. It hurt to take apart my son's room, but it was necessary. Oliver was gone. Rose was alive, and she needed a space to grow. Reverend Paul came to bless the room. He sprinkled holy water in the corners. He prayed for Rose's protection, for my strength, for justice for Oliver. God has a plan, he said, even when we don't understand it. What kind of plan involves killing a good man and nearly drowning a baby? I asked bitterly. The kind that turns evil into hope. Jessica wanted to destroy this family. But look, Oliver left a legacy. You found new purpose. This baby survived against impossible odds. Evil didn't win. Love won. I wanted to believe him. Some days I could. Other days all I saw was darkness. The court hearing was on a Tuesday. I wore my best dress. The same one I wore to Oliver's funeral. Bethany went with me. We walked into a small courtroom. The judge was a woman in her 50s. Gray hair pulled back. Serious expression. But not without kindness. She reviewed all my documents. The certificates. The references. The evaluations. The home inspection report. She read every page carefully. Finally she looked up. "Miss Rose," she said. "I've reviewed your case carefully. It's highly unusual. A 63-year-old woman applying for custody of a newborn. But it's also unusual for a grandmother to save her granddaughter from drowning." My heart pounded so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. "I've spoken with the hospital, with the social workers, with your references. They all say the same thing. That you're dedicated, loving, capable, and that this baby is lucky you were there that day." Tears started but I held them back. "I've also read about the criminal case. About the suspicion that the baby's mother murdered the father and tried to kill the baby. It's horrific. Unthinkable. This child needs stability, love, someone to protect her." A long endless pause. "Therefore I'm granting temporary custody to Margaret Rose for 6 months. During that time there will be monthly visits from Child Protective Services, progress evaluations, and at the end of 6 months we'll review whether custody becomes permanent. Congratulations, Grandma." The gavel struck. Suddenly I could breathe again. I cried right there in the courtroom. Relief, gratitude, fear, everything. Bethany hugged me. "You did it," she whispered. "Against all odds you did it. You get to take her home." 3 days later, 6 weeks after pulling her from the lake, I took Rose home. Carol helped me buckle her into the car seat. She explained everything again. How to hold her, feed her, notice signs of trouble. "She's going to be fine," Carol said. "And I'm just a phone call away if you need me." I drove home at 10 miles per hour. Every bump scared me. Every car that passed made me nervous. But we got there safely. I walked into the house with Rose in my arms. Took her to her room. Put her in the crib. She looked so small in that space. So vulnerable. But she was breathing. She was alive. She was safe for now. The first weeks with Rose at home were the hardest of my life. I'd forgotten how exhausting newborns are. The sleepless nights. The constant crying. The panic that I was doing everything wrong. 30 I raised Oliver with young energy. At 63 every sleepless night left me destroyed. But there were also moments of pure magic. When Rose held my finger with her tiny hand. When she stopped crying at my voice. When she opened those small dark eyes identical to Oliver's and looked at me like I was her whole world. In those moments I knew every second of exhaustion was worth it. Carol came 3 times a week. She taught me tricks I'd forgotten. How to burp her easier. How to swaddle her tight so she'd sleep better. How to understand her different cries. She became more than a nurse. She became a friend. Lifeline. "You're doing an incredible job," she always said. But I didn't feel incredible. Felt terrified. Every strange noise at night made me jump. Every car that drove by slowly made me nervous. Jessica was still out there somewhere. And even though police said she probably left the country, I couldn't shake the feeling she was close. Watching. Waiting. I installed new locks on all the doors. Security cameras on the porch. An alarm system connected to the police. I spent another $800 I didn't have. But Rose's safety was priceless. One night 3 weeks after bringing her home, I found something. I was organizing Oliver's things I'd stored in boxes. His clothes, his books, his papers. At the bottom of a box I found a worn brown leather journal. I didn't know Oliver kept a journal. I opened it with shaking hands. The first pages were from years ago. Thoughts about work, about friends, nothing important. But then I got to entries from the last year. The year he met Jessica. "I met someone today," read an entry from 4 years ago. "Her name is Jessica. She's beautiful, smart, mysterious. There's something about her I can't figure out. She fascinates me." Kept reading. Entries about Jessica became more frequent. Oliver was in love. Completely captivated. But there were also doubts. Sometimes I feel like I don't really know her. She never talks about her family. When I ask, she changes the subject. It's like her life started the day we met. Another entry. I caught Jessica looking through my bank statements. She said she was just curious, but something felt off. Why would she do that without asking? And then the one that chilled my blood. Dated 1 month before his death. Jessica is pregnant. I found the test, but when I asked her, she was furious. She said she doesn't want to keep it. That it will ruin her life. How can she say that? It's our daughter. I changed my will today. Everything goes to the baby. I don't trust Jessica with money. Not after seeing how she spends. $500 shoes. $1,000 purses. She always wants more. But a baby isn't an accessory. It's a life. And I'm going to protect her no matter what. The last entry was from the day he died. Jessica threatened me today. She said I'd regret pressuring her about the baby. I don't know what that means, but it scares me. I'm going to talk to Mom tomorrow. Tell her everything. Maybe she can help me figure out what to do. I just know I can't let Jessica hurt our daughter. I'll protect her always. He never got the chance to talk to me. He died that night. And I never knew he needed help. That he was scared. That he saw danger coming but not fast enough. "I'm sorry," I whispered to the journal. "I'm so sorry, my love. I should have known. I should have seen something was wrong. But I couldn't change the past. I could only protect the future." I took the journal to Sarah the next day. She read everything. Her jaw tightened with each page. "This is crucial evidence," she said. "It shows premeditation. Motive. When we find Jessica, this will bury her." "When are you going to find her?" "Yes. It's been almost 2 months. We're doing everything we can. But she's smart. She probably used fake documents to leave the country. She could be anywhere." But 3 days later everything changed. I was feeding Rose when my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer. But something made me. "Hello," said. Silence. Breathing. Then a voice I recognized immediately. "Maggie." "It's Jessica." My blood froze. I almost dropped Rose. I looked around the room like she might be hiding in shadows. "Where are you?" I managed to say. "Doesn't matter. What matters is I have something you want and you have something I want. You have nothing I want. I have the truth about what really happened to Oliver. About why I did what I did. I bet you want to know. I already know the truth. I read Oliver's journal. I know you killed him for money. I know you're a monster." Cold laugh. No humor. "A monster. How dramatic. You don't know anything, Maggie. Oliver wasn't the saint you think he was. Don't you dare." Shouted. "Don't you dare speak badly of my son." "Fine. You're going to call the police. Go ahead. By the time you hang up I'll be gone. I use burner phones. I'm not stupid. My mind raced. I had to keep her talking. Record this somehow. Put the phone on speaker. Grabbed my cell with my free hand. Started recording. What do you want, Jessica? I want my daughter. And I want Oliver's money. The will money. The $200,000 from insurance plus everything Oliver left in trust for the baby. That's another $300,000. $500,000 total. $500,000. Everything Oliver worked for. Everything he saved. All meant for his daughter. And if I refuse, then I'll come get her. I'm her biological mother. Legally I have more rights than you. And when they finally catch me, I'll say you stole my baby. That you threatened me. That you made up the whole Lake story to keep her. My word against yours. And I'm much younger. More believable. More sympathetic. I felt dizzy but kept recording. How do I know you won't just kill us both and take everything anyway? You don't. But it's your only choice. Bring the baby and the money to the old Williams barn by Route 12. You know, the one where you and Oliver used to pick apples. Tomorrow at midnight. Lone. If I see cops, I disappear and you'll never see me again. And eventually I'll find a way to take Rose from you. Jessica, wait. But the line went dead. I stood there shaking with Rose in one arm and the phone in the other. I had the recording. Evidence that Jessica was alive. That she threatened me. Called Sarah immediately. Sent her the audio. Perfect, she said. It's exactly what we needed. Now we set a trap. You go to that meeting. But we'll be there hidden waiting. When she shows up, we grab her. What if something goes wrong? What if she sees the police and runs again? She won't see us. Promise. I'll have snipers positioned. Teams in the shadows. She won't escape this time. And Rose. Rose stays with Carol in a safe place. You're not taking her. You're just pretending. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. One more day. Just one more day. And then Jessica would finally face justice. For Oliver. For Rose. For all the pain she caused. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake watching Rose sleep. Memorizing every detail of her face. Just in case. Just in case something went wrong. Just in case I never saw her again. Your daddy loved you, I whispered to her. And I love you. And tomorrow we're going to make sure you're safe forever. The next day passed in slow motion. Every minute felt like an hour. Every hour an eternity. At 9 a.m, Carol came to get Rose. I packed her bag like she was going away for a week, even though I hoped to have her back in hours. Diapers. Formula. Extra clothes. Her favorite blanket. My hands shook as I put each item in the bag. She'll be perfectly safe with me, Carol said, taking Rose in her arms. I have your number. Police have my address. Nobody's going to touch her. I promise. I kissed Carol on the forehead. Then I kissed Rose. Her soft skin smelled of baby lotion and hope. I love you, little one, I whispered. Grandma will be back soon. I watched them leave. Carol's car disappeared down the street. I felt like a piece of my soul was torn away. But it was necessary. Rose had to be far away. Just in case things went wrong. Sarah arrived at 2 p.m. with 3 other officers. 2 men and a woman. All in plain clothes. Alarmed. They turned my living room into a command center. Laptop. Radios. Maps of the area around the old barn. Let's go over the plan again, Sarah said, spreading a map on my dining room table. The barn is here. Abandoned 10 years ago. Has 3 entrances. Back. We'll have teams covering all 3. She pointed to locations on the map with red marker. Snipers here and here on the roof of the adjacent storage building. They'll have clear view through the broken barn doors. Assault team back here ready to enter the moment we have visual confirmation of Jessica. And what exactly am I supposed to do? Yes. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. You go in. You talk to her. You keep her talking. We need her to confess. To admit she killed Oliver. To admit she tried to kill Rose. You'll be wearing a hidden microphone. We'll record everything. One of the officers, a tall man in his 30s, took out a tiny button-sized device. This goes on your clothes right here. He pointed just below my collarbone. It transmits everything in real time. It also has a panic button. If you press it 3 times fast, we enter immediately. No matter what. He showed me how it worked. I practiced pressing it. 3 quick taps. My life would depend on remembering that. And if she asks to see the baby, you tell her she's in the car, that you want to talk first, that you want to understand why she did what she did. Appeal to her ego. People like Jessica love to talk about themselves. Let her brag about how clever she was. We spent the next hours reviewing every detail, every possible scenario. What to do if Jessica was armed? What to do if she wasn't alone? What to do if something went wrong? My head was spinning with information. At 8 at night they made me eat a turkey sandwich that tasted like cardboard. But I swallowed every bite. I needed energy. I needed to be alert. At 10 they put the microphone on me. They tested the audio over and over. They made me say phrases. Count to 10. Whisper. Making sure everything worked perfectly. Remember, Sarah said, looking me in the eyes. You're not alone in there. I'll be listening to every word. The team will be just feet away. At the slightest sign of real danger we go in. I won't let anything happen to you. He nodded. I wanted to believe her. But fear was a cold snake in my stomach. At 11:15 we left. I drove my own car. Sarah crouched in the passenger seat so nobody could see her from outside. The other teams are already in position, she said over the radio. Snipers ready. Back team ready. Perimeter secured. We got to the barn at 11:40. It was exactly as I remembered. Falling apart. Broken windows. Walls covered in graffiti. Oliver and I used to come here when he was a boy. We'd pick apples from the trees behind it. Simpler times. Happier times. Sarah got out in a blind spot. She disappeared into shadows. I was alone. I looked at the clock. 11:55. 5 minutes. Closed my eyes. I thought about Oliver. About his smile. About how he called me Mom in that loving tone. About what it would have been like to see him as a father. I thought about Rose. About her future. About all the things she deserved. A life without fear. Without threats. Without shadows. Midnight. My phone vibrated. Text from unknown number. Go in alone now. I got out of the car. The night air was cold. Could see my breath. I walked toward the barn's main door. Every step sounded too loud in the silence. The door was slightly open. Pushed it. Creak. The sound echoed in empty walls. Inside it was dark. Almost completely black. Only a little moonlight filtered through broken windows, creating strange shadows. Jessica, I called out. My voice sounded small. Scared. Close the door, a voice said from the shadows. Jessica's voice. Close the door. My eyes slowly adjusted to darkness. And then I saw her, standing in the center of the barn, wearing dark clothes, black jeans, a hooded sweatshirt. She looked different, thinner. Her hair was short, dyed red. But it was her. You came, she said, almost surprised. You said you wanted to talk. I said I wanted my daughter and the money. Where are they? I want answers first. I want to know why. Why did you kill Oliver? Why did you try to kill Rose? She laughed. That same cold sound from the phone. Why do you think Maggie? For the money. Oliver was a foolish idealist. He talked about love and family and the future. I wanted freedom. I wanted to travel. Live my life. Not be trapped with a house and a screaming baby. Then why marry him? Because he was a programmer. He earned well. He had savings. He had life insurance. It was an investment. I was going to wait 5 years. Divorce him. Take half of everything. But then I got pregnant. And that ruined everything. Her words were poison. Each one burned me. You told him you didn't want the baby. Of course I didn't. But Oliver became impossible. He changed his will. Everything to the baby. So I had to adapt. If Oliver died while I was pregnant, I'd get the insurance. But the baby would inherit the rest. So the solution was simple. Kill Oliver. Have the baby. Kill her too. Keep everything. She was confessing everything. Every word recorded. Transmitted. The police were listening. But I needed more. You hired Carl to sabotage the machine. $2,000. A bargain considering I made $200,000 from insurance. Best investment of my life. And the baby. Your own daughter. She was just an obstacle. Nothing more. I gave birth alone in a motel room I paid cash for. Nobody knew I was pregnant. I wore baggy clothes. Avoided people. When she was born, I thought about just leaving her at a fire station. But then I remembered the lake where you and Oliver used to fish. It seemed poetic to end everything where your little family memories were. Felt sick. Felt rage. I felt all the hatred in the world concentrated on this woman in front of me. But you failed. I saved her. Yes, that was annoying. But it doesn't matter. Because now I'm going to finish what I started. Where is Rose Maggie? I'm not giving her to you. It wasn't a question. And then I saw the weapon. She pulled it from her sweatshirt. Black. Pointed at my chest. Last chance. Where is my daughter? I pressed the panic button. 3 times. You're never going to touch her, I said. Her finger moved to the trigger. Everything moved in slow motion. I saw the flash. I heard the shot. I felt something hit my arm. Burning. Fell backward. And then the barn exploded into motion. Doors burst open. Blinding lights. Voices yelling. Police. Drop the weapon. Get on the ground now. I saw Jessica turn. I saw guns pointing at her. I saw she was surrounded. And for a second I thought she was going to shoot again. I thought she was going to force them to kill her. But she slowly lowered the weapon. She dropped it to the floor. She raised her hands. 3 officers tackled her. Pinned her face down. Handcuffed her. She was screaming. Insults. But it didn't matter. She was caught. It was over. Sarah ran to me. Knelt by my side. Maggie, stay with me. I'm fine, I managed to say, even though the pain in my arm was terrible. You got her. Tell me you got her. We got her. It's over now. Stay still. Ambulance is coming. Closed my eyes. It was enough. It was finally over. I woke up in the hospital again. But this time it was different. This time I felt not despair but relief. My arm hurt where the bullet grazed the muscle. But it missed the bone. Lucky, the doctor said. 1 inch to the right and it would have been your heart. Carol was sitting next to me holding Rose. When I opened my eyes she smiled. Look who woke up, she said, coming closer. Someone missed you a lot. I took Rose with my good arm. Held her against my chest. She smelled of powder and hope. She started making small noises. Those tiny sounds babies make when they're content. Hello, my love, I whispered. Grandma's fine. Everything's fine now. Sarah showed up an hour later. She brought flowers and a tired smile. How do you feel? Like someone who got shot, I said. But alive. What happened to Jessica? Arrested. Charged with first-degree murder for Oliver. Attempted murder for Rose. Attempted murder for you. Plus conspiracy. Fraud. Obstruction of justice. She's going to spend the rest of her life in prison without possibility of parole. The words were sweet as honey. Justice. Finally. The recording worked perfectly. She confessed everything. Her lawyer tried to say you forced her to say those things. But the jury saw the whole video. They saw her pull the gun. They had no mercy. 20 minutes of deliberation. Guilty on all counts. In the following. Sarah showed up an hour later. She brought flowers and a tired smile. How do you feel? Like someone who got shot, I said. But alive. What happened to Jessica? Arrested. Charged with first-degree murder for Oliver. Attempted murder for Rose. Attempted murder for you. Plus conspiracy. Fraud. Obstruction of justice. She's going to spend the rest of her life in prison without possibility of parole. The words were sweet as honey. Justice. Finally. The recording worked perfectly. She confessed everything. Her lawyer tried to say you forced her to say those things. But the jury saw the whole video. They saw her pull the gun. They had no mercy. 20 minutes of deliberation. Guilty on all counts. In the following months I recovered slowly. Physical therapy for my arm was painful but necessary. Carol kept coming to help with Rose when I couldn't lift her with my injured arm. Reverend Paul brought food. Neighbors I barely knew showed up with casseroles and kind words. "You're a hero," said the lady from down the road. "What you did for that baby. Risking your life like that." But I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt like a grandmother doing what any grandmother would do. Protecting her own. 2 months after Jessica's capture, I had another hearing with the judge. This time it was different. This time the judge was smiling as she reviewed the documents. "Miss Rose," she said, "I've reviewed all the reports from the last 6 months. The Child Protective Services visits, Rose's medical evaluations, the progress reports. And I must say I'm impressed." My heart beat fast. "Rose is thriving in your care. She's reaching all her developmental milestones. She's healthy, happy, loved. And you've proven yourself more than capable despite the challenges. Thank you, Your Honor. Therefore I'm granting full and permanent custody of Rose to Margaret Rose effective immediately. Furthermore, given that the biological mother is incarcerated for life and has given up all parental rights, I authorize adoption proceedings if you wish to pursue them. Adoption. To make her legally mine. Not just her grandmother with custody but her legal mother. Yes, I said without hesitation. Yes, I want to adopt her. Then so it shall be. Officially, congratulations. The gavel fell. Suddenly all the weight I'd been carrying for months lifted. It was official. Rose was mine. Nobody could ever take her away again. I walked out of the courthouse with Rose in my arms. She was 8 months old now. Chubby and happy. She smiled, showing 2 tiny teeth. She laughed when I bounced her. She pulled my hair with her chubby hands. Carol and Reverend Paul were waiting outside. They hugged me. All 3 of us cried tears of joy right there on the courthouse steps. "You did it," Carol said. "Against all odds you did it." That night I made a special dinner. Well, as special as it could be with a baby needing constant attention. I invited Carol and Reverend Paul. We ate roasted chicken and potatoes. We toasted with apple juice because none of us drank alcohol. "To Rose," Reverend Paul said, raising his glass. "To her bright future." "To Oliver," I said, "who's watching from somewhere proud of his daughter." "To love," Carol added, "which always conquers evil." We drank. We ate. We laughed. Rose banged on her high chair and squealed with delight. Not understanding but feeling the happiness around her. Months turned into years. Rose grew. She started walking at 11 months. Her first word was gamma. I cried when she said it. At 2 she was running all over the house. 3 she started preschool. Every milestone was a miracle. Every day a gift. I talked to her about Oliver constantly. I showed her photos. I told her stories. "Your daddy was a good man," I told her. "Brave. He loved you even before he met you. He gave his life to protect you." "Daddy hero," Rose would say in her little voice. "Yes, my love. Daddy was a hero. And you're going to grow up to be as good, as brave, as loving as he was." I never told her about Jessica. That would come later when she was older. When she could understand. For now she just needed to know she was loved. That she was wanted. That there were people who fought for her. On Rose's 5th birthday we had a party in the backyard. We invited all the neighborhood kids. Balloons. Presents. Rose ran among her friends laughing. So full of life. So different from the blue still baby I pulled from the lake 5 years ago. Carol sat next to me on the porch watching the celebration. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That day," I admitted. How I could have been 5 minutes later. How I could have not looked out the window at that exact moment. How everything could have been different. But it wasn't. You found her. You saved her. It was meant to be. Or Oliver's doing, I said. Sometimes I think he guided my eyes to the lake that day. That he somehow knew I'd be there. That he could trust me to protect his daughter. Maybe, Carol said. Or maybe you're just an incredibly brave woman who refused to give up. That night after everyone left. After Rose fell asleep exhausted from all the excitement, I sat alone in the living room. I looked at the photos on the wall. Oliver as a baby. Oliver at his graduation. Oliver on his wedding day. And next to them the new photos. Rose newborn in the hospital. Rose taking her first steps. Rose on her first day of school. 2 generations connected by love. Separated by tragedy. United by survival. We did it, Oliver, I whispered to his photo. Your daughter is safe. She's happy. She's growing up strong and good. Just like you wanted. And though I knew he couldn't answer, I felt something. Warmth. Peace. As if he were there. Proud. Grateful. Dressed. Maybe you would have given up if you'd been in my place. Maybe you would have thought you were too old. Too tired. Too broken. Or maybe you would have done exactly the same. Because that's what love does. It makes you stronger than you ever imagined possible. It makes you fight when everything seems lost. It makes you find hope in the deepest darkness. I don't know what the future holds. I know there will be challenges. I know there will be hard days. I know raising a child at my age won't be easy. But I also know every day with Rose is a gift. Every smile. Every hug. Every, I love you, Gamma. When I look at her sleeping peacefully in her room. The room that was once her father's. I see not just a child but a promise. The promise I made to my son. The promise I made to myself that terrible day by the lake. The promise to protect. To love. To never give up. Some say it was luck I was looking out the window at that exact moment. Others say it was fate. Maybe it was both. Maybe it was Oliver guiding me from somewhere beyond our understanding. What I know for sure is when I saw that suitcase sinking in the lake. When I heard that faint sound coming from inside. When I felt Rose's tiny heart fighting to keep beating against my chest. I knew nothing would ever be the same. And you know what? I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the child sleeping under my roof. I'm grateful for the chance to see Oliver's eyes again. To hear his laughter echoing through the walls of this old cabin. I'm grateful for the opportunity to love again. To have purpose. To feel that despite everything I lost, I also gained something precious. Tragedy finds us all. Sooner or later it knocks on our door when we least expect it. Takes away the people we love. The dreams we held. The safety we took for granted. But what we do next, that's the question that defines who we are. I could have surrendered to grief when Oliver died. I could have frozen in fear when I saw Jessica throw the suitcase in the lake. I could have said I was too old, too weak, too broken to be a mother again. Instead I chose to fight. Chose to love. I chose to believe that even in the ashes of the deepest loss something new can grow. And it did. Her name is Rose. Today she's 5 years old. Tomorrow she'll be 6. And someday she'll be 20, 30, 40. Complete woman with her own dreams. Her own loves. Maybe her own children. I don't know if I'll be here to see it all. I probably won't be. But I know I planted the seeds. I know I gave her strong roots and wings to fly. I know I told her about her father. About the love Oliver had for her even before she was born. About the courage it took to defend her. And that will have to be enough. Some nights like this one. After the house falls silent and only the ticking of the old clock on the wall remains. I think about the woman I was before that day by the lake. The woman broken by grief. Living among ghosts of the past. Letting days pass without purpose or hope. I barely recognize her now. 'Cause the woman I am today. The woman who chases a 5-year-old around the yard. Who sticks crayon drawings on the refrigerator. Who kisses scraped knees and scares away monsters from under the bed. That woman is stronger than I ever imagined being. And it all started with a choice. The choice to run toward the lake instead of away from it. The choice to open that wet suitcase even when my heart screamed with fear about what I might find. The choice to fight for the future when the past felt too heavy to carry. It wasn't an easy choice. It wasn't an easy journey. There were days when my back hurt so much from carrying a baby I could barely stand. There were nights when the relentless crying left me in tears. There were moments when I wondered if I'd made a mistake. If I was being selfish to think I could be a mother again at my age. But then Rose would smile at me. She'd say "Gamma" in that sweet voice. She'd fall asleep in my arms, trusting me completely to keep her safe. And I knew deep in my soul I hadn't made a mistake. I'd done exactly what I was supposed to do. Carol and Sarah are still part of our lives. Sarah stops by sometimes bringing gifts for Rose. Checking on how we're doing. Carol has become almost an aunt to her. She takes her to the park on Sundays. Teaches her about flowers and butterflies. Gives her that extra love every child deserves. Reverend Paul blesses our house every Christmas. He tells me Rose is living proof that God works in mysterious ways. Transforming tragedy into triumph. Pain into purpose. And Jessica. She's serving her life sentence without possibility of parole. She'll never again be able to harm Rose or anyone else. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about her. If she regrets it. If any spark of maternal love ever existed in that cold heart. But then I remember the look on her face when she threw the suitcase in the lake. And I know the answer. Some people are incapable of love. Jessica was one of them. She only cared about money, freedom, her own desires. She saw Rose as an obstacle, not the miracle she is. Her loss is my gain. Because every morning I wake up to the sound of little feet running down the hall. My bedroom door opens and Rose jumps into my bed. Her dark hair messy. Her eyes, Oliver's eyes, shining with the promise of a new day. "Good morning, Gamma," she shouts, throwing her little arms around me. And in that moment all the pain, all the struggle, all the sacrifice is worth it. In that moment I know I'd do it all over again. I'd face Jessica. Take the bullet. I'd fight the entire system just to have this child in my life. When people hear our story they often say I'm incredible, brave, extraordinary. But I don't feel that way. I just feel like a grandmother who did what any grandmother would do. Protect her granddaughter at any cost. The true hero of this story is Oliver, who saw through Jessica's lies, who changed his will to protect his unborn daughter, who was willing to face a custody battle to keep her safe. Oliver, who paid the ultimate price for his love. And the true miracle is Rose, who survived against all odds, who fought for every breath in those critical first hours, who brought light back to this house that was once dark with grief. As for me, I'm just the bridge between father and daughter, the guardian of their memories, the protector of their future. And it's enough. It's more than enough. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect from Granny's Echoes.